Jake's going with the first question for Grandma.
Where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
And then where'd you move after that?
We moved to New York City. We lived right near Columbia. My mother was going to Columbia at the time, and I was going to school in Columbia when I was 3.
So that's around Harlem, right?
Around 125th Street. It was right near Harlem. Yes, we used to go shopping in Harlem.
What was the best part of your life?
Well, I mean, one of the parts of my life that was really wonderful was when I had little children. I really loved little children. And after my little children grew up, I became a nursery school teacher so that I could have more little children to take care of for many years. I really liked little kids. So,
What was the best place you lived?
the best place I lived, New York City. I love New York City.
Yeah.
I liked living in New York City when I was a kid. I was about 6. We lived right across from Central Park, and we used to walk in the park. And my friend lived in the same apartment building that I lived in. We used to go up and down the elevator together, and we used to brush our teeth and spit it out the windows. I remember that very well. And we thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Did it land on people's heads?
Well, actually, we didn't do that window. We did the back window where it did land on everyone's head, because my mother was not into this idea at all. We did it secretly. We would meet in the elevator and then run over. But I remember New York City as being really exciting because my mother took me every Saturday to the Met, and we walked around, because she was taking a class in Egyptology. And so when she had to go, she was an art major.
The Metropolitan
The Metropolitan Museum. And we used to go every weekend. My mother had, they still do, they have a pyramid that you can walk into, and I used to walk into that pyramid every Saturday, and I loved it.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. We should
Tell
go.
us about playing the banjo.
Well, playing the banjo, unfortunately, I had this wonderful habit. I now found out that I was a kinetic learner. I used to stick my tongue up when I played the banjo because it gave me extra kinetic help. It was really good neurologically, but not socially, because when I played the banjo, everyone would say to me, "Why did you stick your tongue out when you were playing the banjo?" So eventually I stopped playing the banjo on the basis of that.
How did you stick it out? Doesn't look okay. Okay.
What was Tim like when he was a kid?
Tim was rather like you, as a matter of fact. He was very interested in art. He used to go to museums. He was the only one in the whole family that really liked to look at pictures in museums. And we would go, all of us, to the museum, and after about an hour, John and the other kids would go, I think we got enough of this. But Tim loved it. He would go with me another hour. He was really interested. And nobody forced him. He just really enjoyed looking at pictures. And he understood about pictures, too.
I got one. So what's one regret you have in your life?
Well, I regret that I never finished writing a play. I was really, really supported. I wrote a play when I was in college, and I was supported by Dr. Gassner, who came from Yale, and said that I was as good as Tennessee Williams, and he gave me the name of his agent that I could go, and I never did it because I was afraid at that time. My boyfriend wouldn't wait for me when he told me this in the class. He was so upset because the man, Dr. Gassner, said this play was very successful, mine, and then Bob's play, no, not a good. And he compared the two of them, which was unfortunate because he didn't know we were friends. And he didn't wait for me. He left, and I figured if ever I sold my play, which I thought I would do, I really thought I would never have a boyfriend. So I never did it. And I really regret that I never pushed it further.
Destiny.
What is your favorite flower in your garden?
I suppose because I have more of them than anything else, and because I have more variety of them, I'd say a rose. My garden represents all different periods of my life. Some things that I did at one time, or I put in trees, I put in fruit trees. That was something that did at one time. We first came here, there were no fruit trees, there was nothing much. There were just, and you guys, I paid that's Tim, Chris, and Jenny, I paid them $1 a piece to get rid of the swamp elms from the back. I think you were too little to do it, but the others did, and they took out these little tiny sapling trees, and every time they took a tree out, they got $1. And then we had that whole area rototilled. So we really didn't have anything in this garden except a little blue shed in the back, and that was it. So we put everything in. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. Putting in the basic trees was fun. Then we put in the paths, and deciding what to do, and then making changes in the garden, depending upon the weather and depending upon what my mood was. So it was really fun. I've enjoyed it. It's like, just like your dad changing from a guitar to a ukulele. Someday he might change into a different instrument. Who knows? As you just keep changing as life goes on in different sections of your life.
What does it feel like being in your 80s?
Well, it doesn't feel that more different. I mean, you look different, so people treat you differently. And people expect you to be kind of, it's hard to say, because I think people expect you not to be very aware of things or not to be very smart. And I think that, actually speaking, if you're not particularly hampered by health and you don't have dementia, you're not really that different. It's just, but you are hampered by the fact that you don't look like yourself to yourself in the mirror. I remember I used to look kind of attractive, and now I look like my grandmother. It happens to everybody.
What's your favorite country you went to before?
What's my favorite country? I think I enjoyed Peru the best. I love Peru. I loved England to visit, and it's wonderful, and that I obviously wouldn't want to live in Peru, but going to Peru and seeing Machu Picchu and seeing what the Incas had done, and the various way they till the soil around like this in a completely different way than we do, because they have so many mountains, and they go around like this when they put their corn in. I just found it was fascinating. It was really interesting.
How did you like living in New York?
I love living in New York. Waking up in the morning in New York and feeling everything around you was the most exciting thing in the world. It was just really wonderful. When I was in college and I was playwriting, they had a strip in the comic strip called Joe Palooka. Ham Fisher wrote it. And in the comic strip, they were saying, I read someplace that they're going to have this same comic strip on television, which was not really done at that time. This is a long, long time ago. So I wrote a script for them, a script about what would happen when they were trying to hire people for the television show. For the person that would be the person speaking to the people, for the commercials, all these different things. I wrote a whole outline of what would happen for the next 6 weeks on the television show. And I wrote a whole complete script. And then I don't know how I had the nerve to do this. I sent a telegram to Ham Fisher saying I had this information for him. So they said, come in. I came in and they all looked at me because I was a kid. I was
Were you
18.
literally a kid?
I was 18.
Okay.
I was 18 and I looked very young. So I put a veil on to make myself look older, I remember, but they all went. There I was, and they all looked at this and they didn't know what to say to me naturally. But they said, well, yeah, we'll look at this, and they took it away. And they never used my script, but they took all my suggestions for the 6 weeks, for the next comic strips had all this stuff that I had put. The first week and second week, exactly what I had done. But I had no possible, I had never copyrighted it. I had no way of making a fuss about this. I loved it because I had done this and I knew it was going to come. Now this is the week they're going to do such and such, and they did. They followed it very completely. They just never used my script. But it just shows you send a telegram in the right time, you never know what you're going to get. No, well, I must say that this part of my life, when you talked about aging, is not terribly uncomfortable because of the fact, I'm going to say something good about you guys. I have grandchildren and I have a different life now that is quite satisfying to me. And I'm doing art and I'm still gardening and I just can't afford to travel anymore, which is too bad.
Yeah. Okay, cool.